Sat alone and sit still breathing, I see a face that's not my own. A voice of 100 men, but not my own. A smile that goes as easy as it comes. A heart still beating, but not yet my own. A wandering look too simple to conceive. The truth as vacant as the air I breathe.
Name?
Shane McNaughton. I am an actor from Cushendall in County Antrim.
6 years old. She will never go to her first concert. She'll never have a favourite film. She will never know what it feels like to hold her child in her arms for the first time. To know you don't know how I feel.
Growing up in Cushendall, your father was a legend of Antrim GA, Sambo McNaughton.
So he says.
Surely the ambition for you growing up was to be a great hurler?
Definitely, it was growing up. I still have them aspirations on certain days. No, I mean, coming from the Glens of Antrim, that's all we really have down here is hurling, and it's ingrained in us at a very early age. So I mean, myself and Neil McManus and that, we've played from we were under 10s, you know, right up into playing for Antrim.
And at what age did you give up hurling for Antrim?
I think it was 26, 27. I got an operation on my hip, which kind of gave me a bit of time, which I spent getting back into acting, auditioning and going to classes again. So yeah, I was about 26.
So that was maybe 2014, 15?
2014, I think it was, yeah.
And how much did you enjoy hurling with Antrim?
I loved hurling with Antrim. In the early days, I loved hurling with Antrim, but the more the injuries I had in my hip and stuff, it started to become a bit of a chore for me, if I'm honest. And I mean, I had other interests there with acting and that, and I wanted to explore that a little bit more, and I wasn't giving hurling my full attention, so that's why I just said goodbye to it.
What was your best day of hurling for Antrim?
My best day hurling for Antrim? Probably the day we beat Dublin in Croke Park to get to the All-Ireland quarter-final against Cork. Because we were playing in the second half, I think Dublin and Armagh were playing in the Gaelic, so it was my first real experience of Croke Park with an atmosphere of a near packed out crowd. So it was a brilliant feeling. And
would you have hurled for Antrim with your dad as manager?
I did, yeah, I did. My father and Dominic McKinley took us for our minor team, under 16 and minor, and kind of took us up to senior level as well. So I've been my dad's had me since I was about that height, underage, Cushendall and Antrim, the whole way up to senior.
When you talk to him, it's hurling, and passion screams out of him, and are you necessarily on the same wavelength?
Not quite as intense as him. I mean, it's great speaking to someone like him, and I know people like yourself and that come up and I can have really great in-depth conversations with him and react well to him because he is so passionate, and I love seeing that. I love hearing him talk about hurling because he is so passionate about it. But I mean, particularly for me, there were stages in which I was really passionate about it, but I mean, the last few years it's just waved off a little bit, you know.
So club is where it all started for you, and possibly your best day playing for the club, biggest day perhaps, was your last competitive game of hurling. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, the All-Ireland final. I mean, that was our dream since we were about that height, to play in Croke Park. I remember running about Cushendall hurling pitch pretending I was playing in an All-Ireland final. But to do that with my brother was playing, my dad was part of the coaching, you know, he coached us, my best friends were playing, Neil McManus and that, you know, to do that was just very special. I mean, to end your career in such a, I mean, we get beat, you know, but it was such a high. I mean, even coming back here after getting beat, you see the whole community and the people involved and what it means to them, seeing that in their faces, that's very special, you know, and ending it on that note for me is very special.
Tell me how you first got into acting.
How I first got into acting? Well, my interest from a very young age, watching films. I mean, my father introduced me to, westerns like Shane, the Western, The Natural with Robert Redford. They're all films I loved watching films. I loved going to the cinema. But really, probably the first play I done in Belfast was when I started to take it a little bit more seriously. And
How old were you then?
I was 27.
So that's only 3 years ago.
Yeah.
In 2015.
Yep.
And you only started taking acting classes when?
When I was 27, about 3 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, in Belfast. Yeah.
And where did you start? What was the theatre that you started out in, and what play?
It was the Crescent's Arts Theatre where I took the classes with a company called Belfast Talent, and it was brilliant to give me a little bit of confidence and get you out your shell. And then the play I done was a play called Say You'll Remember Me at the Mac Theatre in Belfast, and that was an experience. You know, that was my first time going on a proper stage. You know, and the people would actually be watching something you do, and I remember the fear I felt before it. In the sweats, you know.
Explain your first ever audition, both how you felt and also what you were doing.
First audition, it was in Queen's Student Union. I remember pressing the elevator button to go up to the 4th floor to do the audition, and I was in the elevator, and I was just going to get out and leave again. I can remember thinking about it now, it gives me anxiety. But I mean, after that's one lesson I have learned. Just getting outside your comfort zone and things like that it's something I really enjoy now. But then at that time, that was a big step, you know.
And how did that audition go?
It went very well. The people, as I say, the people who were auditioning me were very kind to me. I ended up getting that part in the play, and that was it.
And what was the role?
The role was of an Oxford student an Oxford student. So I was quite upper class, you know, as I am.
And where did it go to from there? So that was your starting point in terms of acting. What came next?
Next, well, I just wanted to get better at it. I was curious, you know, I wanted to study. I mean, I kind of thought of it from an athlete's perspective. If you want to get good at something, you go and you train. And I mean, if you want to get good at hurling, you would go and ask Brian Cody to coach you, if it was possible. So I went to New York and I auditioned for the Stella Adler school in New York City, and I eventually got in there and began studying.
The Stella Adler has some pretty famous alumni. Just looking through it, Marlon Brando, Robert De Niro, Martin Sheen, Benicio del Toro.
Yeah.
So it's pretty difficult to get in there. Can you explain how tough it is and how many people audition to get in?
I don't know the exact figures how many people audition, but I'm sure it's thousands. They
per
audition.
Year?
Sorry?
Per year?
Oh yeah. I mean, they audition in London. They audition in all the major cities all over the world. They audition in Dublin as well. But I mean, it's just two monologues: a classical monologue, a contemporary monologue, and an interview, and away you go.
And at what point did you realise I can take this really seriously now? Was it when you were accepted into Stella Adler?
No, because I remember the first day all our class got together in front of all the staff and all the other students, and you had to perform a monologue. And at that time, I remember just shaking. I was like, I'm so out of my depth here, and I wanted to leave. I did. I was like, I've taken this too far here. But after doing that, and I suppose after a few weeks in class and feedback from the teachers and whatnot, I formed a kind of belief in me that, you know, I could maybe try and create a profession out of this and do this full time. Yeah.
Have you acted with any particularly famous people?
Not directly, no. Not directly. I mean, I've been on set with the likes of Jamie Dornan and Gillian Anderson and stuff in the fall, but not directly, no.
And what was that like?
It was good seeing how such a high scale production like that was done, and how the actors held themselves, and you know, that was very interesting for me because it was still very fresh, which I am now still, but it was just great to see the scale of something like that and see how you could fit into it if possible, you know.
Did you feel out of your depth on the fall set?
Oh yes, aye.
In what way?
Because as I say, you go in and these people have been studying for so long, and they've got this long list of, you know, they've a long list of a CV, and you know, maybe I have like one or two things, a little bit of training, which, you know, I did feel out of my depth, you know, but I didn't let it overpower me, you know. It's not as if there's a right or a wrong way to do this, which is good. You know, you just try and bring a little piece of yourself and your own interpretation to what you're working with.
Is it a lifestyle where you struggle to make ends meet? I mean, I'm sure you have a family supporting you, but is it very hard to be standing up on your own 2 feet, considering the money probably isn't flowing in regularly?
It is hard, especially in school. Being in school, you know, it could be hard because you don't, as I say, you don't have the money. You're not going out. You're constantly in school, and you're paying for any money you do get. You're paying for classes to try and get better. You're sacrificing a lot, maybe at this stage of your career, to get better, you know, and to hopefully one day work. as an actor.
I just want us back. Can you stand there and listen to me?
I'm standing here, Sam! I'm standing here! What do you want from me? Huh? What do you want from me? You want more? Is that what you want, Sam? You want more? I don't have any more to give you, Sam! I don't have any more!
Is there any role in the history of film that you wish you could play?
I wish I could play.
Or could have played?
Or could have played. Could have played. Taxi Driver, Robert De Niro. I love to shave my head, that's why. I think I love to grow a mohican.
What effect has acting had on you as a person? I read a quote from you that said, kind of peeled away some layers. Mm-hmm. And a quote from you was, I wasn't living a truthful life. I didn't feel, there was just something a bit off. Now I know that I'm doing what I want to do.
Yeah, I mean, playing for Antrim for so many years and Cushendall and being a hurler, I felt sometimes that, you know, I can only speak about how I felt, you know. I'm not saying everyone would feel like this, but it's just, that's all I was, you know. And there was something I always knew that I just wanted something a little different than that. And going to like the likes of the drama school in New York and starting to make films and you know, I'm happy doing that, you know, because I know getting up in the morning, it's something I can do for the rest of my life. You know, I'm not trying to be a movie star this year or in 5 years' time or 10 years' time. I mean, I spoke about my father, you know, he gets up in the morning, you know, and he still wishes he could play hurling. Like, he's 52, 53 years of age and he wishes he could play hurling, you know, and he still feels that he can. And sport's such a ruthless thing, because once you can't play anymore, you can't play anymore. I mean, I could get up, I could try and be an actor until I'm 80 years of age, you know. There's no time limit in that, and that's something that appealed to me as well, you know.
Can you talk to us again about stripping away that ego, like the person you were versus the person you've become?
Yeah, it's, as I say, playing county hurling, it's just tunnel vision. Playing hurling, it's tunnel vision. You're so down the line with it, and I suppose you need to be a lot of the times.
Are you suggesting there's like a selfishness in how you are because everything is about hurling, and that's what you mean by ego?
I think you have to be. I think you have to have that selfishness to you know, if there's a stag do or your mate's wedding stag, you know, you don't go on that, because that's not going to further get you closer to your goals, you know. I think you have to be selfish in that respect to achieve anything, but in terms of putting away layers, going to school like that there and getting rid of your ego and being stupid and making a fool of yourself, allowing yourself to be embarrassed, you know, being comfortable in your own skin, you know, there's a lot to be said for that, you know.
When you're a developing actor, is there a sense of feeling exposed? Because there's been so much talk lately about what's happened with Kevin Spacey and the alleged abuse there, what's happened with Harvey Weinstein. Yeah. Do you ever feel like an exposed person, because you're kind of at the mercy of a lot of people, decision makers out there?
Yeah, I suppose I wouldn't feel so much exposed like that. I've never had an experience quite like that, but I mean, I can understand it. I mean, at this stage of your acting career, you know, for a guy or a girl, so much is out of your control. You know, it's left inside the room, and you're trying to get that wee bit. You're always trying to get up that ladder, you know, and maybe sometimes you do things, or you let things slip to get up that, to get to the next stage. You might say, no, look, I'll leave that. I'll put it to the back of my head, because I know this man or this woman could do something good for my career in a few months. But then it comes back down to, you know, how you make your decisions every day, the values you have, and how you want to lead your life. If you want to lead your life like that, that's okay. If you don't, then there's stronger choices to be made there. I think it's a personal thing. I think we have a responsibility though to make decisions like that, you know, for other people coming through.
There are people out there who might be a little bit weaker that are definitely getting exposed.
I'm sure there are. I mean, when you talk about weaker, I would almost say that, I mean, you give up so much to pursue a career in acting or whatever it may be, and if someone's going to help you get a wee bit further to achieve your dream, you might let that slip, because you could be so desperate to get to that next level. I mean, you know, it's a complicated scenario, but again, it goes back to a personal, how you make your decisions, you know, in your life.
So just finally then, what's the ambition for you in 2018?
2018? work with better directors, better writers, get an American visa so I can constantly work in America. Yeah.
You may think I'm weak or not overly strong, but we both know he created a reality in which neither of us belong. I don't blame you for going away, and I hope you grow to realise my reasons for not wanting to stay. I sit no longer alone and I breathe once again. I just hope one day you find a way to ease your pain.